got me here. Getting a group of women was very important for me. So if you can get anyone who holds your hand in this journey, to be very important. 3, have your things figured out. What I mean is, if you can afford someone, get your finances done by someone, get your financial analysis done, get to know your 5-year projection done way before you start. Put systems, because you do not want to be, as an entrepreneur, the only, you don't want to be the backbone, you don't want to be everything for this business. If you drop dead today, someone else can take up. And if you can afford it, get people who are able to run for you this business. Have structure, have systems. You give guidance and handle the business. Just know where we're getting finances and how the rest will be running. But the rest, let it be done by other people. Also get something that you enjoy. Love what you're gonna do. Be able to love it every single day. And enjoy it. And enjoy the journey. And it's not an easy journey. It doesn't pay that fast, but it's an interesting journey. My aha moment has to do mostly with like the first 2 weeks. Sometimes when you think about the vision, usually think as if it's something you need to have figured out, something you need to have known how to achieve. But the aha moment was like, vision is, as in, you don't need to have figured it out right now. And so I should not limit my dreaming, because at some point I used to limit the way I dream regarding my business, thinking that it has to be something that I can be able to achieve in the now or in the next 1 year. But coming to the realization that the vision does not need to be something that, as if anything, that's what the vision is, something you foresee in the future, so that it's opened my mind into thinking big and not limiting what my business can do and what it can achieve. So that was like the aha moment. Like, I stopped thinking within that box. I would recommend the program 100%. You know, sometimes we tend to think like, since there's Google, I can Google information, I can be able to teach myself. And we fail to realize the part that goes into when a course is structured, and there's a way the units are structured, and the way the lecturer takes you, the facilitator takes you through it. And there's that added thing that if I was told to sit back and try and teach myself like what I've learned in Centonomy, I would fall short, as in by a very wide margin. So I would highly recommend this class for anyone who's an entrepreneur. You started your business, you're thinking of starting a business, you've been running your business for some time like I have, and it's quite an eye-opening class. And then something else was, the things were very practical. You know, sometimes you feel like what you learn will be theoretical, you won't be able to apply it in your business. What I loved about Centonomy Entrepreneur was that the classes, the units, everything was rather practical, so I could easily apply it in my business. So you must allow people the freedom to actually be free in the organization. And believe me, like what Waceke said, if you don't let your people in on the potential, then you're on your own. But the minute they see the potential, they own it. And once they own it, you're running in tandem. You know, it's a tag team. And nobody's gonna drop the ball. Okay? Because the minute your ball is about to drop, there's someone catching it. Because they're in that team together. So you have to be very decisive. Always remember, as a leader, you must hire slowly and fire quickly. Once again, we go back to personality type. If you're a dove, and I'm sure there's some in here, if you're those people who's on the way here, you know what I mean? The workplace is not for emotion, it's for being very pragmatic. So in training and development of staff, get the people to tell you what their needs are, identify their needs, and then get the right solutions for it. And you will find that people are ready to pay for their own self-improvement and development.
if you structure it properly. You can pre-finance some of it. For example, you can say, I'm going to pay 50% of the training as long as you pass the exams. But the other 50% you pay for yourself. Or I'm going to pay, but I'm bonding you. You come into the company for the next 2 years or 3 years or whatever. You know, get into an agreement like that. But train your people. Google did a 5-year study, which is called Project Aristotle, which you can actually Google. And they found that psychological safety, team members feeling safe to take risks and to be vulnerable in front of each other was far and away the most important of the 5 dynamics that set successful teams apart. So the feeling that they can take risks, they can be vulnerable in front of each other. Remember that exercise I told you? Okay? The feeling that they can do that and it's okay. It's okay for people to know that I need to go to the gym and I'm their boss. Do you get what I'm saying? It's okay for them to tell me that. To allow that, it calls for a lot of vulnerability. And for you to allow that, it takes bravery, okay? Now, if your team feels that actually there are no negative repercussions as a result of that, and that you take them seriously, what ends up happening is that now the culture becomes embedded in day-to-day life, and that's how teams work best. Because teams thrive when you can give your comment and not be afraid that they'll think I'm foolish. You get what I'm saying? You have to allow. That's how innovation comes. That's how you grow. But the minute you're afraid to speak, because, oh, but if I speak, you know, Robert will always say that, you know, that means my accent, they laugh at me. You know those ones, eh? You have to, you really have to make sure that those things don't come in. And there are many ways of making that happen. It's learning to understand the psychology, the emotional intelligence that you have to apply as a leader and in your leadership team.
My name is Tagai John. I go by the name KJ. Anytime you're in Eldoret, hata usiulize location ya salon, just go to your phone, andika tu haircut in Eldoret. Itakuonyesha location, Google Map. Tumesha pin. So that is KJ. Actually, I'm very proud to be here, and I'm really humbled to be given this opportunity. I'm a stylist. Mnajua leo ni siku gani, si ndio? Leo ni siku gani? They are stylists. Today is the day we celebrate making money. But I'll start from there. Centonomy has taught me one thing, which I'm enjoying today. I'll call it freedom. Because I'm here, my team is making money. I'm one of the biggest producers in our business, KJ. Because the brand goes by my name. Client akikuja anauliza KJ yako wapi leo. But there's one thing I've learned, freedom. That is why I can come to Nairobi and not worry. And which kind of freedom are we talking about? The first one is financial. So you ask me, where does it come from? Where do you get financial freedom? Actually, after my second
Hello, imagine sasa sasa ndio inaingia kutoka 9.
Mama,
Yeah, morning, ladies and gentlemen. We'll be starting in about 4 minutes or so. So we've got just a couple of minutes. We'll be able to listen to KJ's story. Christine, if you don't mind, just unmute yourself where you are so we can hear KJ's story as he speaks. But we'll be starting the next 4 minutes or so. The program was to start at 10 a.m. and the aim is to be done by 12 p.m. So welcome everyone who's joining in. We are getting started now in the next 3 minutes now. So Christine, if you're there, kindly, as we're watching this, we need to hear what KJ is saying. Thank you.
So all along from my third class, I've been flying to Nairobi. It's been convenient for me. So I'm getting the freedom I'm talking about, the financial freedom. But there's a cost to pay. For financial freedom, there's a cost to pay. One thing you have to do that is very important, structure. Structure your business. Kama sahi tuseme for example, wanataka kununua shampoo. Watanitumia check na notrip. Sasa ndio nisign ndio nirudishe jioni walipe. Structure. Within my team, I never used to know within my team, there are guys who are better than me. I used to think I'm the best. But after we talked about structure in the Centonomy class, that is where my opportunity was lying. I have someone in my business, anaitwa Derek. He's a young guy, he's around 20. Huyu jamaa anakuanga tu kwa Instagram. But he's a good guy. You know what I did? Alikuwa na page moja. Iko na 5,000 followers. Then I'm just thinking about big opportunity within my business. So I tell Derek, mazee wanajua hizi vitu za Instagram. Niuzie hii page yako. Utaniuzia aje? Akaniambia pesa kidogo 1,500. Sawa, nipe to change content. It is one of our pages inaitwa Cages, Nails and Makeup. Alituzia hiyo page. He's the one who runs that page. Believe you me, mazee Centonomy kwangu, hata I was asking Ruby the other day na muuliza. Sasa Centonomy imeisha alafu. You guys need one for me like 3 classes, mazee. It's been too short. The content is perfect. My accountant did reports the other day. Ya kuanzia January to March. Before he never used to understand. So ananiletea naangalia, I can really relate. I know where my business is going because now I can understand how figures work. So for you to get your freedom, you have to transfer the value. Another thing you have to know, BMC, business model canvas. Jua wateja wako. Business model canvas really ilinisaidia kabisa. Kuna ule mteja anakujanga tu kwa salon. Kuna mademu wengi hapo wanajua. Wanataka tu kusumbua na wanataka service ya bei kali. Jua ako kwa segment gani? Jua tu, it's important when you know, because when you don't know mtasumbuana. Wewe mpeji na of course asijue, lakini unajua wewe ni ule sumbua. So you know what to give to them. You know what you expect from them. So that you don't force someone to buy services they can't afford. Just give them what they want. Because sasa mimi, what I decided is, of course, I want to hear awards. Mimi sitafanya blood dry na 200. Siwezi. I cannot. Hata kama nakupenda. Hata my own mom siwezi mfanyia blood dry ya 200. My own mom, my own sister, siwezi. Because I know my value. If you want a blood dry for 30 minutes, I leave the process. I'll charge you between 800 to 1,000. It's in Eldoret. But I'm giving you quality. I'm giving you something, an award-winning, multi-award-winning stylist making your hair. So, yes, that's my value. So,
Right. Good morning, everybody. Hope you're well, wherever you are in the world. Welcome to the Centonomy Entrepreneur Chats. Today is going to be an excellent day. We've lined up a great group of speakers who are going to be sharing their experiences around business and specifically around this idea of differentiation and what does that mean even in business, as well as their experience as entrepreneurs. I think it's so important that we share our experiences. So as you join, I'd encourage you, if you can, kindly just make sure that your microphone is muted and that your video is off, just so that we can be able to focus on the person who is speaking. So once you join, kindly just switch off your video. If you can as well, also switch off your microphone so that I will be able to focus, not much background noise. But we do want to hear from you. And we specifically want to hear from you in the chat box, and we're going to use that for a couple of things. First of all, just to hear your feedback as we go along the way, but also we'd love to hear where you are in the world. So if you can, just type in the chat box right now, which city you are in the world, which country you are in the world, just so that we have a picture of who we're speaking to. Nowadays, as we hold these events, we recognize that we're speaking to people in different environments, different places, across Africa, across the world. And so if you can, just kindly type in the chat box which city you are in the world, and we'd be happy to have you here. In case we have never met before, my name is Waithaka Gatumia, and I serve here at Centonomy as CEO, but I also am one of the trainers. And I'm also an entrepreneur, as I have been on this journey of entrepreneurship for a while and learning along the way. Learning many lessons from other entrepreneurs, and that's one of the benefits of the Centonomy Entrepreneurship Program, because you get to sit in a room with other entrepreneurs who are on that journey, who are going through the same things that you're going through, dealing with money issues, dealing with investors, dealing with the legal side of business, dealing with strategy issues, dealing with structure issues, dealing with HR issues, and dealing with growth issues. I think that's one of the areas that always amazes me. There's some businesses that have come into our program where the issue they're having is they can't keep up with demand. How do we now raise the funds to be able to do that? I pray that all of us will get to that stage as well, where we are trying to catch up with demand along the way. So as we said, this is what we're going to be doing. Thank you so much for everybody who's been typing in the chat box and telling us now where they are in the world. We've got lots of people from around Kenya, all the way from the coast of Kenya. I can see, who did I see there? Just 1 second as I'm going through this. I saw somebody there. Anne is all the way in Mombasa, and we've got people all the way to the other side of the world. I think I saw somebody, Austin there is in Kakamega. Thank you so much. Grace in Nakuru. We've got some people outside of Kenya in Qatar. I saw somebody there. I've got a couple of other people. I think I saw South Africa somewhere. Somewhere in Hungary. Great. Excellent, wonderful. We've got some people all around the world. Hi, Rita, all the way in Hungary. We've got Shirley in Dar es Salaam in Tanzania. As we said, this is a community that we're in, and we're going to share and continue to grow in this space. So as we get through this, I want you to have a couple of tools around you to help you with this program. Number one is to have a notebook and a pen, because the ideas that come will come quickly, and there's some things that will capture your attention. That's the idea, is that we're here to empower you with the knowledge and experience from entrepreneurs who've done this, who've gone before as well. I want to encourage you to take notes. I want to encourage you, as the speakers are speaking, if there is a burning issue that you'd like to raise, kindly type it in the chat box, and my team and I will be looking through that chat box just to ensure that we haven't missed anybody out. And once we've done that, that we'll be able to, once we've done that, that we'll be able to answer those questions after each of the speakers will come through. So I'll encourage you, if you have a burning question as the session is going through, please do type it in the chat box, and we'll be able to pick that up. We may not be able to answer all the various questions that are there, but the idea is to begin to raise these issues. And once you have signed up and gotten into the class, we'll be able to delve much deeper into the concerns that you may have and bring out the answers that we're going to go for. So I encourage you, have a notebook, have a pen, and be ready to learn a little bit about this idea of how to differentiate our businesses even as we grow. As we get into the program now, I want to recognize that there are quite a few people still trying to get into the room. So we're just letting them get in so that we don't leave anyone behind. No entrepreneur left behind at all. We are still good for time. We're just 6 minutes into the program, so we are still good for time at the moment. If you have just joined us, my name is Waithaka Gatumia. As I said, I serve here at Centonomy as CEO, but also as one of the trainers, and also an entrepreneur who's learning and continuing to share these ideas that we'll be going through through this time. So welcome. Still quite a few people. Excellent. We're almost at, we're over 150 people in the room and still growing. So as they go, I don't want to waste any more time. I just want to let you know, hold on 1 second as I get this up on the screen. The Centonomy Entrepreneurship Program. 1 second. Sorry about that. To make sure you can see what I'm talking about. The Centonomy Entrepreneur Program is designed to have a holistic view around your business. And it is not just going to be dealing with money issues, strategy issues. It's dealing with mindset. It's dealing with what we're discussing today, differentiation. We talk about marketing. You have the benefit of the experience of others who've gone before, and this allows you to go through that. So as the Centonomy Entrepreneurship Program, the modules are as this on the screen. We talk about the mindset of an entrepreneur. How do we begin to think differently from those who are around us? We talk about design thinking, recognizing opportunities, but also beginning to design your business around those opportunities. We talk about fear and vision because we recognize that fear is a big part of this discussion, isn't it? We are not sure which direction are we going. Are people going to be able to come? Will suppliers supply on time? Will customers buy what we are offering? How do we deal with all these issues? Will there be money? Will I be able to take care of my family? I mean, these are real issues that we must deal with, and they affect all entrepreneurs along the way. But we also have to address the issue of vision and where we are heading. We also talk about how I make money in my business. This is my favorite class and one of the newest modules that we're doing in this program because we've recognized how many entrepreneurs struggle with this thing. The idea that write this down in case you're taking notes already, write it down. Profit is not my money. In this session, we talk about what your money is as the entrepreneur in a business. Profit is not your money. If you are running a side hustle, profit is your money. But if you're running a real business, and that's what we're discussing, the entrepreneurship space, in a business as an entrepreneur, profit is not your money. And so if you're surviving on profit, like I used to, that's one of the keys that really begins to break down that business. We begin to understand how do we achieve break-even point? We've been consulting with 2 levels of businesses at the moment. There's a communication business that did over 30 million shillings. That's what 30 million is what in dollars? $30,000, I think. Someone can do that calculation and put it in the chat box for us. 30 million shillings in US dollars, so that everyone else knows what I'm talking about. And there are only 4 guys. They just started two years ago, and last year they hit over 30 million in US dollars. 30 million shillings. Somebody tell me what that is in USD in the chat box if you can. And we were working with them and recognizing, yes, they made 30 million shillings, but they were not profitable. And you could tell they were stressed around that. How is it that we did? It's 300,000. Thank you. 300,000 US dollars. Thank you to everyone who's writing that down. And they were stressed because they couldn't recognize we're bringing in money, but there's no money in our pockets. Why? Because the margins were not large enough. They weren't paying themselves enough, and they were struggling. We're consulting at a completely other level where there's an entrepreneur who's running 3 businesses. They're hawking in town. They have what is called an M-Pesa business, which is a money transfer business using their phones. And they've got another business that they're running. Small, essentially micro businesses. And the same issue. Whatever money they make, they just used to take it out to pay rent, to do other things. And they're wondering, how are we going to grow? And it's that. Profit is not your money. If that's how you're surviving as an entrepreneur, you're not yet there. And so we discuss that in how we make money in our business. And then we get into strategy and structure based on our vision and the goals that we've set. Then we get into the area specific, skill set specific areas where we bring in not just experts in the fields, but experts who are also entrepreneurs. We've done our very best to make sure that the person teaching marketing, yes, they are marketing expert, but they have also run a business. So that when they're speaking about the business experience, they're not going to just be speaking from their own mindset. They're doing so from their own, not just from head knowledge or theory, but from actually doing that themselves. Then we go into digital marketing, which is vital. this, what we're going through right now, is an experience of digital marketing. We've gone into this space as well, and we kind of unpack it and recognize what that means. And then we get into the money discussions, and we have multiple money discussions: accounting, working capital, raising capital, business financial planning with taxes, and then we do accounting part 2, you can see later there. We've also got legal issues around business. I bring lawyers in to help us to unpack that and understand how do our business relationships work together? How do we work around those things? And finally, we talk about the abundant entrepreneur. Because didn't you get into business, and aren't you trying to get into business to make money? So we have to live abundantly, and that is our mission here at Centonomy. So I want to invite you now, have your notebook and pen next to you. Our mission here at Centonomy, as I mentioned before, is to shift mindsets so that purposeful people like yourselves can create wealth and live abundantly. That's what we want for you today. So I hope you have your notebook and pen next to you. Next up, we've got an amazing speaker. I've been waiting to hear his story myself for a long time. I'll do a very short introduction. His name is Mr. Peter Njonjo. He's a co-founder and group CEO of Twiga Foods. Peter, as you can see, has been running a business that you've been reading in the newspaper about, and they have been mentioning billions of shillings that have been invested in that same space. Mr. Njonjo has lots of experience in the corporate world. He was at Coca-Cola. He served around Africa. He was top 40 under 40 by Forbes Africa, one of the top 100 leaders. If I go through his entire CV, we'll be here until tomorrow. And so I'm just so excited to invite Mr. Peter Njonjo. I know you're somewhere in the room, Peter. If you can switch on your camera. Let me see if I can find you there. Excellent.
Hi, how are you? I hope you can hear me.
I can hear you loud and clear. Let me just get my spotlight off so that we can get you onto the screen, and then we'll be ready to hear your story as we go. Just 1 second. There we are. Excellent. Good.
Thank you.
Karibu, Peter. Tell us your story. It's your time now.
No, thank you so much. I really appreciate you having me for this session. I hope you can hear me clearly and see me clearly. So just a little bit about myself. So I'm Kenyan, did most of my schooling in Kenya, part of it in the US, but also married, 4 kids. And actually, the reason why I'm taking this call from the car is my daughter is swimming today, so I'm here on daddy duties. So, but I had to more or less take this call. So, really appreciate you taking the time to listen to me. So, as was mentioned, in terms of career, I worked with the Coca-Cola company for 21 years. For about 6 years, I was CEO for the Coca-Cola business here in East Africa. I was based out here in Nairobi. Did actually most of my career here in Nairobi. And I was looking after Kenya, Uganda, Tanzania, Ethiopia, Eritrea, and Mozambique. So then later, in the last phase of my career with the Coca-Cola company, I then was president for West and Central Africa. So I was based out in Lagos, Nigeria. And there I was looking after about 33 countries across Africa. And I was also part of Coca-Cola's global leadership, operational leadership. But the key thing is that during that period, when I was in East Africa, so we started Twiga Foods with Grant. Grant Brook was my co-founder. Then he was running the business. But the thing is that because then I was kind of working in Coca-Cola, I was able to finance Twiga in the early stages of the business. And those were interesting times. And when we started out Twiga, the way we saw ourselves was a company that was going to provide what I'd call structured access of a domestic market to smallholder farmers. And this was about using technology to allow smallholder farmers to be able to sell their produce in the market, in the cities, and all. Because one of the challenges that we face across the continent is around fragmentation. And let me explain why this is a big deal before I get into the Twiga story, because it's good to understand the problem that we're trying to solve as a company. When you think about the African retail landscape, It's made of little retail outlets scattered across urban cities. So when you think about the kiosks, the dukas, the mamambogas, all those essentially account for about 70 to 90% of the retail landscape across Africa. The key thing is that supermarkets account for a very, very small part of the retail industry across Africa. So, and let me explain to you the challenge in this. So when you think about, say, for example, the US, in the US, the two largest retailers, give and take Walmart and Amazon, account for close to about $1 trillion of spend. Now, what these two retailers have done, they have built large distribution centers. So if I'm a farmer, I think there's a bit of an interference. So if I'm a farmer, I don't need to start worrying about who do I sell the produce. Sorry, I got muted there. So the thing is that if I'm a farmer, all I'm doing is that I'm going to a large distribution center, and that distribution center, I'm able to deliver all my produce there. So for farmers in the US, in Western Europe, accessing the market is not difficult because you have big supermarkets that are able to offer you that access to the market. Now, when you think about what happens in Kenya, so if you want to grow some produce and maybe sell to the market, the reality is that you really don't know who to sell to. So what you find is that there's a little shop outside. That shop can't buy everything that you're producing and all. So what ends up happening is that you have brokers, and those brokers, their role is to buy from different farmers and then figure out ways in which they can get this produce to the market. Now, when they do that, sometimes you have many layers of brokers before the product gets to the retailer. In those layers of brokers, a lot of wastage happens. They layer their costs, and over and above that, there's a lot of wastage. So just to give you some context, about, say, 40% of the produce that is farmed and produced never makes it to the retail. So all that is wasted. So what ends up happening is that people spend a lot on food, especially in markets like ours. On average, Kenyans are spending about 55% of their disposable income on food, while in countries like the US, they're spending about 6-7% of their disposable income on food. So that's the problem we set out to solve, to then say that, look, how can we use technology to help the farmers?
Sorry, Peter, let me just sort out that background noise. As I said, guys, when we're joining, kindly just keep your microphone muted as we go forward. Peter, go ahead.
Yeah, so the key thing is that, so when we set out with Twiga, the key thing is that, so the key thing that we wanted to do is to figure out then how we use technology to allow a farmer skip the layers of brokers and go directly to retail. And that's what we set out to do. But of course, doing that was not easy. We kind of stumbled on this. And the reason why I want to share this is to now just show, yes, when you think about a business many years later, it looks very, very well defined. But when you start, you actually haven't figured out a lot of these things yet. So when we started out the business, we thought about the export market like everybody else. And the reason why we thought about exporting was because the large retailers in Europe, in Middle East, they're able to give you a purchase order, unlike the retailers here in Kenya, because they're big retailers. So I'll give you an example. You know, when Grant and I flew to Dubai, we met a company there, and that company basically ordered 50 containers of bananas every month. So it was very, very straightforward. We come back to Kenya and we start shipping out bananas. And then what we realized very quickly is that the farming industry in Kenya is all smallholders. So people don't have certification. There's no traceability. The record keeping is poor. People don't even know the varieties that they've planted. We very quickly learned that we could not export one container of bananas outside of Kenya, because at times you kind of just feel like you're just a new sign and say, tunanunua mazi hapa, you know, we're buying bananas here, everybody come. So, but that's not reality. So we have to figure out, how do we go about this? So we tried to sell bananas in Wakulima. We discovered cartels. We went to Mudhurwa, you sell, you don't get paid anything. Actually, there's a day we went and sold on Mudhurwa, and all the mama mbogas were like, yeah, kuja basi, kuja jioni uchukue pesa. And of course, we came in the evening, they were not there. So we discovered a lot of things during that period. And at the point we were nearly giving up, I told Grant, what if you put some bananas in your car and we just go sell in the kiosk? We see if the kiosk will buy. And this was at a point of desperation now. We tried everything in the book. And Grant calls me excited later in the day and told me, by the way, not only did the prices in the kiosk are very, very high. We actually made some money. And I couldn't believe it. So, and we kept on doing that. And the funny thing was at that point, then I told Grant, okay, looks like there's a business here. So I thought straightforward. Now, okay, the thing is that I used to bank with a bank. I'll not mention the name. I don't want to embarrass anybody. But they used to have this class of customers who they consider to be very, very special. And then because, as a big boss in Coca-Cola, every time you go to the bank, they have tea, they have a kamandazi for you. And I thought that, when I go and tell them about my business, I will feel very, very excited about what I was going to say to them. And when I went to them and I said, I started this business, very, very exciting. So now I need a loan to buy some tuk-tuks. And they told me, now, here, we bank you because you're the general manager of Coca-Cola. If you've started a business, please go to the SME side. And when I went to the SME side of the bank, they asked me 6 months of my bank statement, the same bank I had banked with for 10 years. And I believe it. I'm like, how can you ask me for a bank statement when I've been banking with you all my life since my first job? And how can you do this to me? And I ended up now going there to try and shop and figure out how to raise money. And actually, the guys who lent me money to start initially was a microfinance bank. And sometimes if you look at the pictures of Twiga on the internet, there's a picture of 5 tuk-tuks, lined up one after the other. And those are the tuk-tuks that I got from Rafiki Microfinance Bank. So ran with it and really started the business. And that's how we're discovering, the more you go into the retail space, there's so many problems that need to be solved. Mara, they want bananas, they want tomatoes, they want potatoes. And soon you're trying to figure out how to expand. And at the same time, you have a farming ecosystem that's very, very informal. Today I have tomatoes, tomorrow I don't have tomatoes. The next day I've decided to grow onions. The next day I've decided to grow something else. So it was very, very difficult figuring out all this and giving farmers or giving your retailers a consistent product. Now, of course, as you're running the business, you're trying to figure out, how do you raise money? It's so difficult to raise money. And that's when I started going and seeing local investors. Do you want to invest in the business? We have an interesting opportunity here. And sadly enough, there's no single investor that I found in Kenya who was willing to invest in the business. And those who wanted to invest had very, very weird concepts about how to value the business or what it is that they wanted to get out of the money they were putting in. So that kind of left me in a very, very disillusioned space. And that's when we kind of got together with Grant. We said, what? We're going to now get into this space where they call incubators. And in those incubators, we look for incubators that are promising companies money if they do something outstanding. So there was this particular one that really stood out for us. And it was an incubator called 1776 in Washington, D.C. And the key thing is that they were saying that, you come in, you compete amongst 1,200 companies globally. If you win, you get to walk away with $250,000. And I was like, look, $250,000 would take us a long, long way. So we got into the competition, we prepared our PowerPoint presentation, everything was very, very clear. And off we were to the races. And we did very well. But the key thing is that by then I had invested quite a bit of money in Twiga. So when we got to the finals here in Kenya, they did not consider us to be technically a real startup. They wanted somebody who's like startup on the ground. So by then, we invested more than the $250,000 that we were asking for. But the key thing is that I was starting to run short cash. So at that point, they signed us up as a wildcard, which means that you're not ranked, but we like your story. Proceed to the global final. So Grant proceeded to DC, where he was doing the pitch, And I was busy in Taveta buying bananas. There's even no network there, trying to struggle with farmers, figure out how to sort this out. And then my weekends were very tough. On Fridays, after I finish work in the evenings, I would fly to Tanzania in Moshi and then drive into Taveta through the Holili border. I would spend the weekend there. Then on Sunday, I would fly back. Essentially, I didn't have a life to speak of. And the thing is, I just spend my weekends trying to build this business. And Grant calls me and tells me, you know what? We won the competition. Out of 1,200 companies globally, our story was selected as a story that really, really got us to where we needed to get to. And I was just so excited. So I asked Grant, when are they wiring the money? And he told me, well, there's a bit of a technicality. They gave us a term sheet, and a term sheet said that they were going to give us $250,000 if we raise $1 million. And I was like, okay, we did $250,000. Now you're telling us to go raise $1 million. Where do we even start? And they said, look, this is a term sheet. It's signed term sheet. Go show it to everyone and tell them that, you know what, we're willing to back you up. And if they come and they're willing to invest $750,000, we will then invest the $250,000. And I told Grant, okay, fine, let's first of all understand what this term sheet says. And we educated ourselves on everything about venture capital by watching videos on YouTube. And we spent weekends sharing videos, exchanging calls, understanding, what does pre-money valuation mean? What do all these mean? And that's how we got into the venture capital world. Then when we felt that we were confident, we put together a business case and we started shopping for investors. So by the time we were kind of getting to a point where we're confident that we're going to raise the money, I started sensing that we're actually going to run out of money before we were even able to get financing. And at that point, I remember I was having a lunch with my wife at Cafe in Lavington, and I told her, listen, the way things are going, I am so stressed. I am up to here with debt. Credit was maxed out. My unsecured credit was maxed out. And things are really bad when you start looking at your wife's car and you're wondering, do we really need this? And that's when you're about to hit rock bottom. You're willing to sell anything that comes your way just to ensure that you're able to put that money in the business. And that's a point where, I just told my wife, listen, this stress is so much, I think I'll give up. I walk away from all this because I don't think I can do this anymore. And she just told me, why don't you sell the house? And I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was like, you're willing for us to sell the house? And I was so excited. So immediately I went and I started taking photos and all that. And the key thing is that this is a house we had built in Karen. So, and I was in my early phase. You push everything into and we realized that, what, we have just sold it. And the key thing that, we sold it, the person who bought it, liked the house, they did everything.
Hi, Peter, sorry, you're breaking up a little bit. If you don't mind, just say that again. You sold it, and then that part just broke up a little bit.
Yeah, so we sold the house, the person who bought it really liked the house. So they bought it with the curtains, the furniture, everything. So we also have just a click on our back. And that's how we were able to get additional funding after we paid off the mortgage that we owed on the house to actually invest in Twiga. And that's how we were able to have enough capital to ensure that we could actually even get to finalize the funding. And that's how basically we closed our first round of fundraising and set out to raise $1 million. We ended up raising $1.75 million. And for me, that was like a very, very exciting period because after you've put in so much sweat and I've put in so much trying to figure out, sorry, can you hear or then with you?
No, we can hear you. Go ahead, Peter.
Okay. So, and what was really exciting was when I was sharing my story with the rest of the world to actually find that people resonate the problem they're trying to solve. And it was a big problem that people could see the value of what we were creating. That's a point at which, we closed that round, and I was so excited. And remember, I was in the UK to figure out where we'll buy a truck, out and really start ramping Waceke. And then this bank happened. And out of the 100 million we raised, $100 million just vanished. And I couldn't believe it. And I was
Sorry,
like,
say that again, Peter. It broke up. What happened? Something happened that took away the cash.
Oh, yes. Chase Bank happened. And I don't know any of you were impacted by this bank, where, overnight, basically the money in the bank was just frozen.
Yeah, sorry, Peter. I'm so sorry because I'm breaking up your train of thought, but it is now breaking up quite a bit. Maybe we can try without the video just so that we hear clearly exactly what you're saying. So Chase Bank happened and your money was all frozen in the bank. I think that's where we heard you last.
So let me try. Give me a sec.
Yep, sure. For those who are listening outside of Kenya, Chase Bank was a great supporter of entrepreneurs. Unfortunately, the bank collapsed, and that's the story that Peter is telling us right now. All right, if you can. Yes.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Let's try and hear now. Go ahead.
Okay. Yeah, so what I was saying is, so Chase Bank collapsed, and we lost about $500,000 of a capital that we're raising. And the key thing is that, that for me was another devastating blow. And it was struggle after struggle until we tried to figure out how to stabilize the business. All this time I was still working in Coca-Cola. So, and at that point, Grant was CEO. Then I got into an agreement with Grant that, look, if you were to get to a point where you feel like you will struggle as CEO, please reach out to me and I'm happy to come over and take over the business and continue running with it. And that's how we ran the initial period. The good thing is that, we got investors who had a lot of belief in whatever it is that we're doing. We're able to overcome the challenges that we had with the bank. And so Grant ran the business for the first 5 years. And he made that call in December of 2018, where, he called me and he's like, hey, Peter, I don't think I'm able to do this anymore. The company has become very, very complicated. And this is really not my cup of tea. I'm not enjoying myself anymore. And you can imagine then, my career with Coca-Cola was like taking off. I had a very, very successful operation in Nigeria. I was about to transition to an international role, and even during that period, I had the fortune of even having dinner on the floor of the New York Stock Exchange with Warren Buffett's son, who was a board member at Coca-Cola. I mean, it was like an amazing experience. So during that period, I then transitioned into Coca-Cola. No, I transitioned from Coca-Cola into Twiga. And so I've been CEO since April of 2019. And during that period is when I transitioned Twiga from being a marketplace for farmers and really positioned to be an e-commerce business. And since then, we've done very, very well. Since I came on board, I brought in Goldman Sachs as an investor. I brought in a couple of other investors, and the business has done well. From a revenue standpoint, we've actually grown about 13 times the size that we were back then. So, and today we have about 1,000 employees. We serve about 130,000 customers across the country. And every day we ship out about 700 metric tons of assorted produce. Actually, our handling these days, we handle about 1.5 billion kilos of produce every day, assorted produce, from sugar to diapers to bananas to potatoes to watermelons. And it's been an amazing journey getting to this point, and right now we're basically gearing up for international expansion. So it's been quite an interesting journey getting up until this point, and we're really, really grateful for all the people who've supported us along the way, having an amazing team, having an amazing group of shareholders, having an amazing board, and also having a very, very supportive wife, and family. So it's been an amazing journey, and yeah. So that's basically my Twiga story, how we got here, and what it is that we're doing, and we continue to grow every day. So maybe Waithaka, I can hand it back to you, and we can then ask any questions. Maybe anyone might want to ask with the time that we have.
There are already 2 questions that have come through. This is Brian Odor. Brian has asked, Peter, how much did it cost to bootstrap, essentially CapEx and OpEx, Twiga until the incubator money came through? Give him a picture of what that looked like.
Okay. I won't call it it was bootstrapping, but basically I had to scrounge around, and I had put together close to about $1 million into the business.
Wow. Excellent. This is from YouTube. I think Felix was asking, for someone without disposable assets, what would your advice be for raising capital?
The thing is that when we started out Twiga, which was 8 years ago, the startup ecosystem was very, very different from what it is today. What I would say is that, today there's so many forums where you can actually leverage to raise capital. I don't know how many of you have heard of like Y Combinator. So, and Y Combinator, this is actually like a network in Silicon Valley. If you have a business idea, you go there, you pitch it. If they like it and they adopt you as a Y Combinator company, immediately you're able to raise, you can raise, I know of companies that have raised, and this is an amazing thing. You have a room full of investors. And if they like your business and they like whatever it is that you're saying, you can actually walk away with $2 million in investment. Mm-hmm. So I think the key thing here is that it's about mindset. Think about, how should business be positioned globally? How should I think about pitching my business? How do I leverage technology to create transformation or actually to disrupt existing sectors? And if you're able to put together a compelling story, it's getting easier and easier to raise money globally. But you also have to put yourself out there. You have to then say, look, going to San Francisco, being able to pitch into a room full of strangers, that means that, you're leaving your comfort zone. You're doing something you've not done before. And essentially, that's basically how you've seen a lot of Nigerian businesses being able to raise capital. And you're seeing that just created a wave of company after company that are essentially raising a lot of capital. And a lot of them actually started in the Y Combinator. So it's something that is worth looking into.
Imara is wondering, Peter, what challenges are you foreseeing moving into the international market now?
Well, the thing is that there will always be different challenges, especially around hiring talent, overcoming regulatory hurdles with different stakeholders. So essentially, it's going to be very, very different in each of those markets. So the most important thing is that figure out how to leverage a network, hire the right talent, and ensure that you have the right capability to overcome some of these challenges. So it's all about people. It's all about networks. It's all about how you perceive problems and how you gear to solve those problems. But the key thing is that the challenges will be there and they will be enormous.
That's right. And Pierre is asking, Peter, if you were to restart today, this is many years past, what ideas do you believe would work in Africa to make a difference in Africa? What do you think that the space is offering now? That's Pierre on YouTube.
The key thing is that I think and this is what's really exciting about the African continent today, is that you have inefficiency in nearly every sector you could think about. If you think about healthcare, if you think about food, if you think about logistics, if you think about education, there's so many bottlenecks that could actually be transformed using technology. So the way I would look at it is, how can technology solve basic problems that consumers, the average consumer in Africa is experiencing. And out of that, how do you then create a business out of it? And I think that for me is just what's really, really exciting about the continent. Things like financial access, things like healthcare. I mean, there's just so much that technology can do. And I think the key thing is that it's really applying yourself to then see how can you then leverage technology to create value in some of those sectors.
And Maria was asking, what do you think was the real differentiator for Twiga that made it stand out in all those competitions and allow for investment to come in? What was the differentiator in terms of investment, but also in terms of the market? What do you think were the main issues?
So the key thing is that, and I'm a big believer in talent. So I ensured that, you know, we had hired very, very high caliber people who could actually help solve the problems that we were setting out to solve. And I think the key thing is that a couple of things differentiated us. One, we had a very bold vision in terms of what the company could be, even back then. The second thing is that we had a good team that we had managed to put together. The third thing is that we had shown that we had the ability to execute. What we said we were going to do, we did. So, and those three things started building credibility in us very, very early on as a business. And I think that's what really differentiated us.
Wow, wow, wow. Last question, and this one is, I guess, tongue in cheek. Did you buy your wife another house?
Yes, at least we have a holiday home. So yes, so at least she has something at least in the meantime, as I continue to hustle.
I'm telling you, Peter, if you don't mind, if you can switch on your video as we close out. You have done an amazing job in just sharing your story and beginning to show that those small changes that you're talking about, the people that you had, the systems that you put in place, and also delivery, which is key. I think those are what, as you said, you have really set you apart. And so, if you can, we're going to. Sorry,
my video is it's disabled.
Oh, okay. Let me see if I can get it back on my end. Give it a try now, if you don't mind.
Yeah, there
just
we
so
go.
that you can, there you go. So you can say bye to the people. I mean, if you can see some of the questions, we have a bit of time in the chat box. You can just go through and see if you can respond to a couple of them before you know. But I know there's someone waiting to see you watch them swim in that gala where it is. But we really appreciate your time. Thank you for sitting in the car and sharing that story. You should see all the comments there saying how inspiring it is. It's really great to hear those African stories that have been told. And the challenge is to you, and I keep telling everyone who's doing this kind of work, write a book, please, so that in our classes at Centonomy, we'll be using the story of Twiga and not the story of these foreign companies outside of Africa. Please do. Thank you so much, Peter.
And the thing is that, you know, anyone wants to read the story, our story has actually been documented by Harvard Business School, my alma mater, and they're actually using it to teach an MBA class. So if you go to Harvard Business School and you type Twiga, you should be able to download our case study there. So, but thank you so much, everyone.
Excellent. If you can actually share that link in the chat box, and we'll be able to share if you can before you go. But we really appreciate your time. Thank you for sharing that story.
Thank you so much for having me.
Wow, wow, wow. As in, you should see my book, my notebook over here. It is overflowing at the moment. Listen, guys, this journey of entrepreneurship is not easy. It's not simple, but it is doable. And the thing about it is when you hear other people's stories and you hear them like we have this morning, it is about you taking that journey. And here's the thing. You heard him saying we were learning on the go, we were learning as we could, everything online. You don't have to do that. We've put together a 12-week program that is designed to help you get that business off the ground. If you've already started, to help it to achieve its profitability. That is what the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program is. Whether you've not yet started, whether you've just started, or whether you've been in business for years, that's what this program is for, so that you don't have to. I keep talking about this at all our events. Listen to this. the human race has moved forward because we don't keep reinventing the wheel. If someone has already gone before and created the wheel, take that idea and begin to see how can we apply it to the next technology and the next thing that's growing. So we don't have to go back to the beginning. We can pick up from where others have gone before. And that's what the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program is. We have gathered the information that will help you as an entrepreneur set the standard for your business to move forward. And as you could hear from Peter's story, there are many challenges that are going to be along the way. And if you have that skill set in place, if you have the anticipation, then you're going to be able to actually succeed in that business as we go forward. So it's a 14-week online program that will help you build a great business, and not just one, many. We want you to become a serial entrepreneur, because we talk about structure, digital strategies, how to raise and manage capital, what we were discussing just now. And just to give you an idea, I told you we go into the field for experts. So the group that is training, especially around raising capital, they actually do raising capital in Africa. And they're able to speak from experience on how to raise capital, just like what Peter was talking about. The accounting, tax, and legal. It's an online program at the moment. And so you can log in from wherever you are into that program. It starts on the 16th of February, 2022. The tuition fee is 51,000 shillings, which is about $510. And the registration fee is 1,000 shillings today. Just 1 second, I can move this out of my way so I can see clearly. And we're running a 10% discount at the moment, just due to all the issues that we've been facing over the last 2 years with the COVID-19 pandemic, just to make this as accessible as possible. So you can be able to make those payments. I had shown you this before, and I'll be showing you again the detailed modules that you go through in the entrepreneurship program. It is structured to build upon. Just remember that the class runs, you attend class once a week for a 3-hour session, once a week, either on Wednesday at 6 p.m. East African time, or Saturday, like a time like this, at 9 a.m. East African time. And we use this Zoom platform for delivery. So as we said, the tuition fee starts on the 16th of February. Tuition fee is 51,000 shillings, registration 1,000 shillings. It's about $510 USD if you're outside of Kenya, and about $10 to register today. If you're interested, please do register right now. You can also pay those the fee in installments, which is really great. So we usually have that registration of 2,100 shillings, but today, because you have shown up here for the Entrepreneur Chats, it's only 1,000 bob. The tuition fee of 51,000 can be paid in installments. The first installment, 19,000. The next month, you pay 19,000, and the final month, 13,000. In USD, that's 190, 190, 130. And the M-Pesa pay bill for those who are in Kenya, you can see it at the bottom there. Do register today. Take advantage of that special offer of 1,000 bob to register. That's all you need to do today is register with 1,000 shillings, and we'll send you all the details of how the class is going to run. With the M-Pesa 986850, the account number is your name. Just put in your name and the word ENT, the letters, sorry, capital ENT at the end, so we can recognize which program it is that you're signing up for. If you are in the international audience, just take a quick screenshot so that you have the payment details. And then if you have any questions or you'd like to clarify anything, you can reach out to ruby@centonomy.com, ruby@centonomy.com, or call that number on the screen. That's 254-700-801112, and you'll be able to get the information that you need. See if I can, there we go. He has spoken at our events before. In fact, we have to negotiate now with Mr. Leonard Mudachi on how he's going to just become part of the faculty here in training. He's an entrepreneur, especially in the food and beverage industry. He's worked across the, if we talk about food in Kenya, you cannot miss speaking about Mr. Leonard Mudachi. If you talk about areas like Big Square, Java House Africa, Blanco Holdings, Tamarind Group, he has that experience, and the last time he came to speak, he gave us a reality check, speaking from his perspective. Leonard, I know you're in the room and will do a much better job of telling people your story. So I'll ask you if you can switch on your camera. And then you'll be able to, I think you can do it now. Sorry, I've not given you the permissions to go through, but go ahead now. You can be able to switch on your camera. Excellent. My brother, I know
Yes,
you have
Waithaka.
fire for us today, as you did the last
No
time.
fire. I think Peter has done a phenomenal job. I think
Hasn't he?
we can go home now.
No, all the experience will make a huge difference for us. So please tell us your story and begin to help us to differentiate our businesses as you go.
Excellent. Thank you very much for having me. Though I must admit, I struggle a bit with the tell the story bit, because it comes, it almost seems like you're done, like the story has ended, and far from it. I think if you were to ask Peter, he would probably confirm this. They're still looking for more money. They're still trying to grow. And so the ball just keeps rolling. And so what I prefer is, I don't think I've ever had a session where there's always something to learn from someone, including the smallest businessman. And my biggest lesson in entrepreneurship has been that the learning never ends. You will perpetually be learning. And if you open your mind to that, it's very beneficial to know that you'll never reach a place where you know it all. I worked for a boss once upon a time who told me that when you're green, you grow, and when you're ripe, you rot. So stay green, because just keep learning, keep seeking the information. The world is changing. I started my career when social media was nothing. Now social media marketing is a significant portion of what you need to learn. So we've had to learn and adapt. I'll try to give my story in a summarized fashion. Those of you who have been here probably have heard it before. So I consider myself a bit fortunate in that I didn't have struggles to know what I wanted to do. I like hospitality. I think it comes from a childhood place of service, where when we would have any kind of function at home, I was always keen on what's happening at the back, what are they cooking, how are they cooking it. And that enjoyment of service made it clear to me that I want to do service, that I want to be in a service hospitality related industry. So, but when I was in high school, there was no hospitality as a degree option. There is now, and there are several universities that offer it, but that didn't exist in our time. In the time you're selecting university courses, you couldn't choose a hospitality case. So I went to my dad, I remember, with a form to pick university, and I told him, listen, they don't have what I want to do. So what do we do? He says, what do you want to do? He says, I want to study hotel and restaurant management. And so he says, okay, let's fill up the form with what you want to, what would you be your second and your third choices, and then we'll see what happens when you get your results. So fun fact that very few people know, my first choice was Bachelor of Architecture. And my second choice, which I ended up being called for, was Bachelor of Horticulture at Egerton University. And that's what I was called to uni for, but fortunately, I did not do that. So I studied hotel and restaurant management. I then came back after a brief 2-year stint of management training in the States, came back home and had a very vibrant and what I call the formative years of my career with the Tamin Group at the flagship restaurant, the Carnival. And I was there for 6 years. But one of the things that I struggled with was I felt that the restaurant story didn't really have a Kenyan face to it. And I enjoyed a lot of African food, but I didn't have a place to go and take guests there when I was entertaining guests, or recommend to guests when maybe they had a meal at the Carnival and they say, where else can we go to try Kenyan flair, to try Kenyan food? So I set off to, after 6 years, again, at a point where my career was really thriving. I was on the fast track. I had been promoted 2 or 3 times. I was working as the deputy GM of, at that time, what was the biggest and busiest restaurant in the country. And I decided to leave a bit naively. At that time, all I knew is I knew restaurant operations and I knew how to adequately prepare meals and serve guests. But I had no clue of how to adequately fund a restaurant, what working capital is, working capital support, how much money you need to sustain. So what I know now that I didn't know then is that I raised way too little money. I raised money just enough to fit out the restaurant, open it, and maybe pay salaries for a month or so. And then the ego was there. Ego was a factor. So I was sitting there and I saying, listen, I'm this hotshot restaurant manager. And when I open the restaurant, it'll be full. So I didn't even consider the fact that it's a new brand. No one knows it. No one would come. To take time for people to come. So we opened shop, and day 1, 2, after friends and family have told them we've opened. They came day 1, day 2, and then nothing. And you're like, oh, okay. And first rent check is due, first salaries are due, and the realities of what it takes to run a business started to dawn on me. And it's a slow process. A lot of you, I'm sure, can relate to what I'm talking about, because you expect, and therein you asked me some questions on what you'd like me to cover, and therein is my first lesson. Yeah, the business will do what it will do. It will not do what you think it will do. And even the best laid business plans, you have to be flexible enough to know that they can change. And if you build a business plan that's etched in stone, then trust me, you have a problem. You build a business plan that's flexible, open your eyes, keep your eyes on the market, and understand some fundamentals about your business, but also be flexible enough to change based on what you learn in the market. So fast forward to, so that Blanco's journey, the restaurant was called Blanco's Lounge and Grill. We opened, it was at Timao Plaza on Agnes-Kodek Road. My investors were largely friends and family. And so we went through that. And then we opened in 2006. And that first year of an aggressive learning curve was then started settling about month 12. We were 12 months in, and we're now saying, okay, we're generating some cash, we're selling. We now, those mistakes that I made because I did not know any different, we started to settle, we started to turn over good numbers, and we were quite comfortable, able to pay salaries on time, able to pay your NSSF, and we're like, okay, we're moving. And then post-election violence happens. 2007 elections, and at that time, if you remember, Agnes-Kodek is just around the corner from ODM house, and Agnes-Kodek Road was the battlefront for people to have running battles with the cops. And so there was no business, and we ended up closing for 1.5 months. And if you're running a business and you close for 1.5 months, as we have recently found out with the pandemic, without any sort of support, and support I mean from your landlord and from anyone else who you have to give money, fixed monies, you know what kind of hole that digs you out into. So that was a tough time. But we then said, okay, so my solution to get us out of that tough time was, let's start to build another concept, because we had a vision of being multi-unit, multi-brand restaurant operators. So I said, maybe it's time to go out into the market and start a different concept. And that led me to something that I had been drawing up on paper, which is called Blanco Sports Grill. It's a sports lounge bar. And we raised money again from friends and family and some investors. And we went and picked a space at the Galleria Mall, signed for it, and fitted out what was really a really exciting project to work on. And if anyone had been there, the running comment we get, it was a concept that was far ahead of its time as restaurants concepts go in this market. We opened it was fabulous. That one, we really got some things right. Yeah. And the numbers were strong. business was some, and now we're at about 2011. 2011 February is when we opened. And then there's always something. When I say that business happens the way it happens, and life, just like life, it happens the way it happens. The government of Kenya decides to do something that is very good for the people of Kenya, but not great for me and my business at the Galleria Mall, which was, they started building the Bomas of Kenya interchange, which was supposed to take 3 months and ended up taking slightly over a year, I think a year and 4 months. So the Bomas interchange totally changed the dynamic of the Galleria Mall. Traffic, people were avoiding that until the road was built. There were traffic jams for days, and people would just avoid that side of town if they could. And the ones who lived on the road and couldn't avoid it were not really looking to stop anywhere, just sit in the jam and get home. And so we saw our numbers and our sales plummet in the time of that. And yeah, so there we are again. And I was like, okay, second time around and we get this experience. So what do we do? Not much we could do. We need, the restaurant business is very similar to the hotel business in that it can be a very successful business, but it's extremely capital intensive. And you don't have the luxury of doing it in small bits. And what I mean by that is you can do, if you're opening a small restaurant, you can, but you have to open it completely. Yeah, so whatever the amount it takes to open the small restaurant, you have to have it and you have to open it completely. So as small as it is, it has to be complete with the seats, with the waiters, if it's takeaway, with all the facilities so that it can trade. Unlike other business, you don't have the luxury of saying, I'll sell to whatever product it is you have, and after that, I will then introduce the waiter service. You know, depending on your concept, you have to do it completely. And so with that came, I would say, my entrepreneurial downfall. And everything went to the dogs. My lease at Timao Plaza was 6 years in, and my shareholders, who were my family, said, this restaurant thing, my friend, I don't think it's for us as investors. So let's just stop the pain now, and we don't renew this lease. Yeah. So ended up losing both restaurants to auctioneers. Both the Timao restaurant and the sports grill. Painful, of course. Anyone who's worked with me knows the effort I put in to build the restaurants and to build the teams that run them. So we shut down, and we're now in 2013. So after the battles of paying off creditors and selling off some stuff to pay debts, sat down, and after the tears and the crying of the loss of the business, sat down and said, okay, so how was that journey? You know, that whole journey so far from when I left the carnival to date. And I was like, okay, the journey was good. I actually enjoyed building the brands. The brands were good. People enjoyed them. Yeah. People came, they enjoyed the meals, they enjoyed the experience, they enjoyed the things we put together. So that's what I did right. What did I do wrong? Yeah. I did not know, I did not have adequate knowledge of how restaurants were financed, how you raise capital for restaurants, how you allocate for working capital and ensure that you have sufficient funds for that. So I said, I need to get myself in an environment where that is happening. So I'm going to look for a job. But the job I'm going to look for is not going to be a traditional job. It's going to be, at least for me personally, the goals of that job will be to learn some things that I don't know. Yeah, largely the things that I mentioned about investment, capital raising, and the rest. And so I had a few interviews and a few offers, but none of them fit that bill of something that was offering me something that I want, that I needed. I felt I needed to learn. Coincidentally, 2012 had seen the first private equity transaction or large private equity transaction in the restaurant industry in Kenya. There have been several others since, but the first one was Nairobi Java House in 2012. And they had a role which, since they got the private equity money, they had been trying to fill, which was business development director. And basically what the role entailed was in charge of scaling up. So securing the new locations, negotiating with the landlords for the locations, drawing up the new designs for the new Javas, and then fitting out the restaurants and handing them on to the operations department thereafter. So that ticked all my boxes. It was what I think I did well. So challenge in our industry, Kenya has quite a diverse set. We are very talented when it comes to hospitality management as a nation. The missing link in that talent is that while we have great restaurant operators, great hotel managers, we don't have hotel managers and restaurant operators who understand the business side, the funding side, the investment side, and that's the missing link. I really wish more of our hoteliers. And you have a look at your shags or anywhere where you see hotels. You'll see a lot of hotels in Kenya, but you'll see very few hotels owned by hoteliers. And that's a disconnect and a huge opportunity for anyone who is studying hotel or restaurant management in this market. So I accepted the job, got the job, interviewed for it, got it, and started. And what a ride. You know, it was an interesting job. We were doing so much. On average, we were opening one restaurant a month. That's 12 restaurants a year. I don't think few in this market have had an opportunity to do that. Went into new markets, went into Uganda, went into Rwanda, and enjoyed the journey. After 2 years, felt that, yeah, okay, now we can go back to this entrepreneurial journey. And brings me to Waithaka. I'll not lay my thing out the way you had laid it out. I'll just go randomly and capture, but in the end, I'll capture all your points or all the things you asked me to cover. So then discovered, now what am I going to do? When I was in Java and I was talking to landlords, used to get a lot of, by the time the brand was known, and Java is a very visible brand in the restaurant scene in Kenya. So when developers start developing all over the country, they start looking for you. They say, I'm so-and-so, I have a location here and I have a location here. Now, we were limited by the price point of the Java brand as to where it goes, where it could go. You know, you had some really good developments by developers in some parts of the city or some parts of the country, but based on the average spend of the Java customer, like, okay, this might not work here, yeah, but it would work there. So I was like, okay, so how can I take advantage of the fact that the market has now grown? Like I said, after Java, there have been several other private equity investors in the restaurant space. And so there's a lot of attention in the market, and how do we now take advantage of it? And I set out to build a mid-tier restaurant brand. And because of my now newfound understanding of private equity, how restaurants are built and run and financed, it's like, okay, we're going to buy something. We're going to buy something that has done maybe 5, 6, 7 units, and I'll take it from there. Which is my other takeaway for the day for the entrepreneurs. Please, 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 please build sellable businesses. And what I mean by that is build a business that is not entirely about you, that is built around systems and processes, so that if you get tired, and there's nothing wrong with getting tired, that if you get tired of it one day, you can put it on the market and get fair remuneration for the effort that you've put in over the years. Unfortunately, we have not been well educated in our market on how to build sellable business. We have a culture of the hustle, you know, and the hustle, okay, it is a terminology that we use and it contextualizes what we do, how we do it, but very few hustles can be sold. You know, businesses that are sold are structured. People want to see structure, because if they want to buy a business, they want to buy a business that is not revolving around an individual, that works irrespective of that individual's presence. And if you don't build your business, that if you don't build your structures around your business, you won't be able to sell it. And entrepreneurship has a selfish element to it. And the selfish thing, if I was to say you do it so that you can cash out as an individual, that you have options in your life and you can say, okay, I've done this for 10 years. Just like Peter earlier told Grant, his partner, said, I'm done. And he walked away. So you want to create a business. And when I say, what does it mean to build a sellable business? So build a business that has, that is compliant, you know, on the statutory side, that is audited, because audited accounts, that is structured, that pays you as an employee of that business, collect a salary so that you can see your value and pay yourself. Yeah. Whether you collect that money or not from the business is another story, but on the books, have a salary. Yeah. And let the salary be competitive. I know how entrepreneurship is, and there are some days you won't collect that salary, but have it, pay PAYE on it, and have it. Let the business owe you money, but have that structure, because we suffer from the fact that our businesses are not really sellable. And as a result, having a sellable business is not necessarily selling it off 100%. It could be selling it off partially. You know, you could invite people to invest in 25%. So you sell 25% of your business and you get some capital and you get some results for your effort. So after I left Java, I identified a business. I won't mention any names, but we went through a whole journey. I had enough of a track record in the marketplace to attract some private equity partners. They were like, I identified this business. I thought it was a beautiful business. It was profitable. It was in the restaurant space, but maybe a lower tier than Java, which I felt was a bigger segment of the market. And I was like, okay, let's go. We buy this business. We do all the things that will make it scalable. So we build in structures, we build in HR systems, finance reporting systems, and then we had private equity backing. So they had dedicated about $4 million, and they were like, okay, so this is sufficient money to buy out the investor in the business who was getting a significant portion of the investment, and the rest will grow the business. And the reason why I'm telling you build sellable business is this story has a very painful ending, because after 2.5 years of work, we finally get to literally the finish line. And the finish line is we are 1.5 months away from signing documents and money changing hands. And there's a process called due diligence that businesses that have been sold have to go through. And basically what due diligence is people looking into your business to see if there are any hidden things in the closet that will cause for them problems. And the business collapsed because of that. So $4 million transaction didn't happen, because at the time when it came to change money and we had done the due diligence, it was found that the tax books were not in order. And you know, tax books not being in order come with liability. And they said that, listen, we can't take on this potential liability of this business, and the deal fell apart. So that's it. And after that, I went back a brief stint in employment, about 1.5 years. Enjoyed the ravages of the pandemic on the restaurant industry, but I now run a company called Branded Restaurants and Retail Africa. And what we do is we acquire small to medium-sized brands, and we restructure them for growth. And my dream and vision around that is if we can restructure and grow Kenyan brands, which we put into ultimately exit via the stock exchange, so that we can have Kenyans owning greater pieces of this economy and staff incentives around equity and ownership, because Kenya is a market that has an unfair skew of employees. And I believe that true change comes from owners. And the more Kenyan owners they can be of businesses, the more policy and direction will follow and enable people to grow and develop. And that in a very quick and summarized fashion is I think the story you asked me to tell. So I think I just want to echo a couple of things that Peter mentioned that I'm a firm believer in, is talent. You know, you can't be all things in your business, and do strive, particularly if you want to build a sellable business, do strive to find talent that is really good, that is as good at what they do as you are at what you do. You have an ambition and a drive and a talent. I can guarantee you, when it comes to accounts, you know, there's someone who is as excited about numbers as you are about whatever business. Please don't try and become that person. Yeah. Rather hire that person, or whether you can afford to hire them on a day-to-day basis is another question. But maybe you can outsource your accounting to a firm that delivers those accounting results the way you want them. But do work with professionals. Kenya is extremely gifted from the perspective of having talent across the board. Use it. Gatumia talked about not reinventing the wheel. Don't reinvent the wheel. You know, there are HR structures that are there. They are laid out. There are people who understand the tax code. Use them. Don't be afraid to. Don't think that it's too expensive. A lot of times when it comes to structure and policy things, cheap is expensive. Keep learning. You learn by doing. You can talk to. I opened this by saying, sometimes when you talk in these forums, it comes across like you have, like I have arrived. I can guarantee you I'm far from arriving anywhere. And my experiences are unique to myself, and yours will be unique to you. Have confidence in your abilities, and keep doing, and just keep doing. The lessons that you learn by doing are priceless. They're lessons that you cannot get from any book. You will don't spend too much time looking across the fence and feeling sorry for yourself, because the grass is always greener on the other side, but it's not necessarily green. You know, it's just your vision of it from the outside. So just keep doing. Remember, when you're building your teams, that everyone wants growth, even your people. Even though you're the entrepreneur and you built a good team, remember that as the entrepreneur, you have an obligation to those people to keep growing and developing them if you want to benefit from their talents. And if you don't grow and develop them, just like you felt the need to leave your employment because there was something that you are not achieving there. So if you do have a good team, as the entrepreneur, as the leader of that team, remember that growth is your obligation. And growth is your obligation because your team needs growth if you want to sustain it and you want to keep it engaged and confident and delivering the general outlook of your vision. And lastly, but not least, be authentic and genuine. This fake it till you make it culture we have is a challenge, and it's a problem on many fronts. Just be honest. Find your little network of entrepreneurs who you speak to honestly and who you exchange notes with and ideas. And I can't emphasize it enough, but build sellable businesses. And that's it.
I'm laughing over here, Leonard, because your candor and your honesty is refreshing. I think we've heard it too many times. Fake it till you make it, and so people fake it too long. Be real. I love that. I love that. Couple of questions have come through already. The idea of family and friends as investors. This is something that has touched. I think this is Cynthia, and she said, how did you approach them? First of all, what was the negotiation like? And then what was the experience like dealing with them after that?
Family and friends they are that. They are family and friends, and they'll give you money, but that money is also, it's also partly clouded in their love for you, you know, because they are your family. The only reason, I don't think they would fund you if they didn't like you. So there's also that emotive element. My advice would be try, despite the fact that it's family and friends, still try and be as structured as possible. You know, if you can share with them any documentation, any business plans that justify the existence of the business you're trying to create. And tell them, you know, how will we deal with things when they go wrong? Because I think we always sell a picture of success, and we say that this is how much we're going to make if this goes right. But any business venture in reality is 50-50. It could work or it could fail, and the failure is something that is very real. So have that discussion. You want to once you have people who are interested in funding you and they have expressed an interest in funding you, take time now that the tables actually turn. Once they have expressed an interest in funding you, you now have to interview them. And you interview them to see if you want to take their money. And you only want to take their money if they convince you that you're sharing a vision. And if they don't convince you that they are sharing your vision, leave that money and walk away. As painful as it may sound, I know you, as entrepreneurs, you want the idea. Here's a guy about to cut you a check. But if you feel for whatever reason that, hey, here, there's been a connection, we just say thank you very much and continue on your journey. I think unanimity of thought between investors is way more important than the actual money itself.
Leonard, here is someone who is actually asking, this person is an entrepreneur for sure. This Brian, he said, Leonard, and if Peter is still around, I think he's walked out. Regarding talent in your startup business, with money being focused on creating traction and other options are there, what did you take for attracting, what options did you take for attracting the best talent? What kind of package worked? And how did you manage situations where you couldn't pay? That's an entrepreneur for sure.
I mean, that's a brilliant question. But the question is, can you sell them a story, a believable story, and a genuine story? You know, I think it's misplaced. At least maybe I can speak for myself. When I look at the jobs that I've had and that I've enjoyed, not necessarily had, the jobs in my career that I've enjoyed most, they were not always the best paid, you know, in the market. There were probably other entities that paid more, but I enjoyed them because I had leadership that I believed in and leadership that allowed me to work. So can you be that leader for the talent you want to attract? Is the story of joining you worth it for them? Not necessarily just financially, and that requires a certain level of honesty to share your vision, your dreams. And if you do so genuinely, you will find the people who agree with what you're saying and want to be part of that story. And one of the things that I'm probably proudest about is, despite the fact that both Blanco's Sports Grill and Blanco's Lounge and Grill closed, and they might come back in the future, but they are closed for now. But all my team landed somewhere, you know, and are doing very well for themselves in their own right in their career. So can you sell people a vision that is believable and worth it?
Excellent. I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being as honest as you always are. It really, really has been great to hear your story. Please continue to tell it. And as I told Peter as well, be writing your book. This is the time that we need the story of Leonard Mudachi and the work that he did in the restaurant and service business. We can grow it, I think, as we go forward. So thank you so much. God bless you. And to all the questions, if you have a bit of time, just look through the chat box. You can be able to respond to a couple of questions there. Thank you to everybody on social media who's watching at the same time. So we're going on quite a couple of different platforms, and we've seen the questions that are coming through even as we're doing this. So as we mentioned before, a couple of things that Leonard has mentioned, and it's so important that we see them clearly. As he mentioned earlier on, build a sellable business. And this is a key part of the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program. Let me just get you the details of that program there on the screen. This is a key part of it. You're finding that he mentioned that people are not well educated to build a sellable business. And that's what we're discussing in the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program. Don't go other places to look for it. It's here. When you understand what Leonard was talking about, working capital, it's one of the issues that entrepreneurs miss is that cash, making a sale does not mean that you have cash in the bank. And that's a reality. How are you going to deal with those debt cycles when you've been told that we'll pay you in 60 days or 90 days? Yes, you've made the sale, but what happens when it comes to working capital? What Leonard mentioned, he didn't raise enough capital in his first business because he didn't understand that. Why do you have to go through that same hassle? Don't reinvent the wheel. Come into the class so that you can speak to other people, other entrepreneurs. I told you all the trainers have had entrepreneurship experience, and specifically around raising capital in Africa as well, so that you're able to see the results of that. Business planning, don't reinvent the wheel. Come and sign up for the entrepreneurship program here at Centonomy so that we're able to achieve the goals that we have. We're starting on the 16th of February, as I mentioned before, and you're going to be able to join with that registration fee there of 1,000 shillings, or about $10 if you're outside of Kenya. Remember, it's one class per week. And remember that we're also going to be doing it on Wednesday, 6 p.m. East African time, Saturday, 9 a.m. East African time via Zoom on the 16th. We've also got the payment plan that is there so that it is affordable. 19,000 per month. And then the last month, it'll be 13,000. $190, $190, and $130. And you can make it via M-Pesa or the bank details that are there. If you're watching and you are moving quickly, don't worry, take a screenshot so you have the details with you so that you can make that payment and take advantage of that discounted registration fee. Usually you'd register at 2,100 shillings, but anytime you come for an event, it means that you have given us your time, and we want to make sure that you get the benefit of it even as we go forward. So just remember this. You can take that advantage right now of this. We've got our final speaker who's coming up shortly, who's going to be sharing her entrepreneurship experience as well here at Centonomy. So I just want to invite her to come up on the screen. Sorry, Waceke Nduati, who's the founder of Centonomy. Hi, Waceke, I know you're in the room somewhere. I'm just going to ensure that you have been given all the rights that are required. 1 second. There we go. So you can be able to unmute yourself and be able to put on your camera even as we come. I've been walking this journey with you, Waceke. Even now, I'm still learning from you as well.
Okay, all right.
So I've got my notebook and pen. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you, Waithaka. Morning, everybody. I know it's almost noon, and I don't even know what to add after Peter and Leonard have articulated so much. A lot of times when I'm speaking last, I feel that people will think that I called them in advance to organize what we're speaking, but mine is short. I think I've been given my story a lot on this platform. So I just want to emphasize just some of the things that were said today. And I think it's just for the journey of Centonomy has been from me leaving my job. Then I went and started a brokerage, an agency for a stock brokerage company, because in my job, that is what I used to do. I used to help people buy and sell shares. And then as I was doing that, I felt, first of all, I'm not quite convicted about what I'm doing. I'm not feeling the passion. I'm not feeling the commitment to this. I can't see the vision. But I also started my own financial journey and realizing now I don't have money. What did I used to do with my money? But also I started talking to people about money, and that's what led to the journey of Centonomy. So I started this company doing one-on-one. So I'd come to you, we draw up your budget, we draw up your education plan, we draw up everything you need for your finances. And then when I was doing that, I was like, after I've seen 10 people, first of all, spending 2 hours with 10 people was taking up a lot of time. So I started thinking, okay, the time is not being properly used. So if I want to impact more, yet 10 people, 80% of the issues are similar, why don't I just put them in the class? And I didn't reinvent the wheel. I'd been for other classes, not financial classes, life coaching classes where I'd seen this model and I'm like, let me try it out. And that's the story of Centonomy. And I know I'm saying it in such a very general way, but I just wanted to tell you to emphasize how one thing leads to another, especially if you keep your eyes open. Now, I don't have a money story. So Centonomy has now helped hundreds and thousands of people. But I want to tell you this, we have never raised money externally. And I want to say that today because a lot of time when people are thinking about growing business, starting business, the question is always, and there's so much talk about investors, and it is important. And for a lot of companies, that is what will be important. But I also want to say there are companies like ours who have never raised money, hundreds and thousands of people, over 30 people in the team, including the trainers. So we have our own training center, but we didn't raise money externally. So what is it? Yes, I also did raise a little bit of money from my mother a long time ago, but we haven't raised significant money. Now is when we're looking at options for that because we want to go to the next level. So this is what I want to emphasize to you. Working on your business versus working in the business. And a lot of times you're going to get stuck. People get stuck because they're constantly working in the business. And if I was to say, what was that single factor in Centonomy? It was that shift. When I started my stock brokerage business, I worked in the business. Shares were not being bought or sold unless Waceke was there. The customers were not being advised unless Waceke was there. Problems were not being sorted out of the stock brokerage companies unless Waceke was there. Money was not being collected unless Waceke was there. So that by the time I left, I could sense, my goodness, I started this company with so much energy, but there's burnout. And why did that company, why couldn't I do anything with that company? It's the burnout. So sometimes even why have businesses sustained? It's because of these things that we're talking about. So first thing, understand, working on your business is a different level of skill. It's like saying I'm a doctor versus I own a hospital. Owning a hospital is a different level of skill than being the doctor who works at the hospital. So the doctor, you're the technician, you're treating people. But the owner of the hospital, yes, should understand something about medicine, but needs to understand, how do I run the hospital? How do we get our supplies? How do we get our medicines? How do I manage these same doctors? And sometimes when we are in a business, I've seen businesses, even 10 years later, they're still the doctor. They have not gone and become the hospital. So to take our businesses to the next level, this part what we're talking about, how do we get value? How do we communicate value? It's learning to think like the hospital owner. It's like owning a house. You build the house, you do the hard work of building the house, but then you move into the house. So you have this house, but you're the person eating in the house, you're watching TV in the house, you're entertaining yourself in the house. Yeah. So what happens? What happens when you're in the house? You don't have the sight from outside the house. When you're outside the house, you can see, I need to renovate this. You can see someone else is building their house this way, and you completely get the exposure of the other houses and ideas and opportunities. So what do you need to do to start working on your business now? And what's the difference? A lot of us are in businesses where it's about customers, it's about sales, and we are running around dealing with our customers, dealing with our sales. But we never take time to understand who are these customers. So you're saying, I want customers, I want customers. I don't know, so many times people come and tell us, I want customers, I want customers. Who are these customers? Yeah. So it's understanding that who are these customers? What's their lifestyle? What's their personality? And then now saying, where do I get those customers? Instead of just running around, yeah? It's understanding it's not busyness. People are very busy. You ask people, what are they doing? They are very busy, they are very busy, they are very busy. But it's not about that. It's about saying what is going to be productive. So I remember that when I started, I was very busy. I was training most of the programs, most of the classes at Centonomy. And one day I was like, I can't do this, especially if we want to run more classes, we want to run more courses. And I remember I had to get somebody and then teach them how to train. Now that process of teaching them is for my business, what we call structures. So just look at your set of activities and understand what is it that you need to write down, you need to note down so that it becomes an easy process. What are those things that are taking up your time? If you just sat and organized yourself and sometimes use even some of these tools that are available, it would be a lot more effective. Yes, it comes with fear, because when we are busy and we are the ones doing everything, we have a bit of an ego boost about it. Yeah. What is it that you can hand over to somebody else or find a more efficient way? So I taught another trainer to start training the classes, and now we have a team of over 30 trainers across the board training different things, but it has always been about those structures. When you're working in your business, you spend a lot of time managing people. When you're working on your business, you build culture. And managing people is making sure they're always doing what they're doing. And that culture leads to that they're always the ones coming back to you to ask you what they should be doing. But working on your business is about what is the culture? Does the culture empower people to actually be problem solvers? I have always said I hire fellow entrepreneurs. I don't hire employees. I hire fellow entrepreneurs, meaning people who can solve problems. And as Leonard was saying, people who are better than me. And the focus is not you just being the entrepreneur, but building an entrepreneurial culture within your organization. When you're working in your business, you're surviving. It's a build, it's every day. It's the drama that hits you every day. When you're working on your business, it's not about that. It's about, are you outside of the business enough to start seeing opportunity? Remember what I was saying about the customers. When you understand my customers are this age group, this is how they live, this is why they want, this is the problem I'm solving for them, you can then understand, okay, who do I partner with? Because that person has access to 1,000 of these people instead of me going one by one, looking for 1,000 people. When I discovered this thing of moving away from survival, that's when you even listen to what these customers are telling you. And for us, it started with one core product in personal finance. Then people will say, I wish I knew this when I was younger and younger. Do you have something for kids? It started then, the kids program came out, the university students program came out, and Centonomy Entrepreneur came out. But that opportunity, one thing leads to another and leads to another. It's a continuous story, as what Leonard was saying, is because you're outside of the house enough to start, have those conversations and to see that opportunity. When it comes from money, you're always focusing, when you're working in your business, you're always focusing on bills, you're always focusing on what does the P&L look like. But this is what I've learned as an entrepreneur, forget profit. Yeah. What is the cash flow? When you're working on your business, you are focused on the cash flow. And it's as simple as this. Every week, understand what money is coming out. What money has to go out? Do I have a deficit? Do I have a surplus? And if I have a deficit, what do I then have to do about it? It's understanding where I'm going to be. It's planning ahead so you can understand that in 3 weeks we'll be at a deficit. Because in 3 weeks we'll be at a deficit. What do we have to do this week? Do we have to talk to the bank? Do we have to chase money? Do we have to reinvent our business? Do we have to, what do we have to do? So it's just keeping in that mindset of let us see the problem ahead of time. That is what cash flow actually does. And then it causes you to start being financially separated, because when you're working in the business, you're financially integrated. A lot of people keep saying that I'm part of the business is me, I can't separate. But when you're working on the business, money is a tool, yeah? So you separate yourself. So it means paying yourself, but being able to make financial decisions from the outside so that you can see that you are planning money and planning all the resources that your business has from the perspective of the outside instead of being caught up. So it's like in a house, sometimes you're like, to do the next investment, we're going to cut off our cable TV for a while. Yeah. So cut off the cable TV so that you can do the next investment. So when you're working on your business, yeah, you start seeing, okay, even the money that we have, is this the best way of doing it? Because with money, when we are in the business, we're not aware, we're not outside of the house enough. We're just going to use money the same way we've been using it. We'll pay the same bills, we'll do the same things, we'll use the same suppliers. But sometimes, like a lot of things like COVID did for people, is question, do you need rent? Do you need to pay rent? Or if you invested that money that you are paying for rent in skills, in machinery, or whatever it is for your business, it will actually give you a better return. Yeah. So as I said, working on your business is about starting to be extremely aware of what creates value, what doesn't create value. So a business is not there to be run because of you. A business is there to exist in spite of you. So the best ways of starting this process for you, and this is something I've done, is test the business. Stay away for a week. If a week is too much for you at this point, stay away for 3 days, yeah, from the business, and see, what do you think will fall apart? What are the fears in you? Then you'll start to understand how that value is actually not being created. Yeah. So you are creating a story. And in my book, Making Sense, I always say money is a tool for the life that you want, but it is not the life. And Centonomy and my story, Centonomy, is a perfect example of that. It has not been about raising money. It has not been about looking for the next investor, at least not yet, not yet. So these first 12 years of our lives have been laying the foundation so that even when these investors come in, first of all, they come in on our terms, but they'll come and find the structures there. They won't come and find a business that is reliant on Waceke. They won't come and find a business that has a bad culture that's going to fall apart. They'll come and find a business that is constantly reinventing. They'll come and find a business, not that we have a lot of money in the bank, but has cash, has processes regarding the management of cash and discipline around management of cash. So even as business people, we've got to be disciplined. Just because you see millions in your bank account does not mean it is money for you to go and access. Once you do that forward planning, you'll be able to see that if I do access this money, this is what won't happen in 3 weeks, 4 weeks, 5 weeks. So it's also a lot of personal discipline. We can talk about raising money until we're blue in the face, but if you as the CEO of the company or the founder of the company lack personal discipline with money, meaning if you can't see 10 million shillings in your bank account, a bank account which you have access, and don't touch it, how many people can see that kind of money and still not touch it? Yeah, that is discipline. Yeah. So it's that, and that's what value is. You've then created value. You've created a business that you can sell. You've created a business that will attract the right people. You've created a business where you're constantly opening your eyes to what's next. You've created a business that you can exit. You've created a business that gives you choices, and not just you. I think in this day and age, all of us running businesses it is our duty to create African stories. So you've created a business that has an African story. And this starts from a conviction. You are not doing this business out of obligation, but conviction. A firm belief that this business is there for a reason. So build that story. All of us in this room today are African business people or interested in business or working for a business. It is our duty to support each other. So when you go out, buy Africa, buy Kenya, buy Tanzania. Yeah, but even as entrepreneurs, it is also our duty to make sure when we're saying buy Kenya, we are representing Kenya or Africa the right way, so we don't put mediocre services and mediocre products out there. And we've collectively got to, what I'm feeling this way is raise the frequency. So it's not about you, yeah, it's about the brand you are building. So working on your business is about creating a brand. So we are not creating Anne's business or Timothy's business or Waceke's business. We are creating a brand, and your customer will start relating to the brand. So it doesn't matter who is sitting on the table. Yes, you want good people, but it doesn't matter because it's about the brand. When we go and buy phones and things like that, it's all about the brand. If you trust Samsung, you trust Samsung. Yeah, it's about the brand. And that's the kind of thing we want to create. We want you to create businesses that put a certain way of thinking and a certain perception in people's heads. People don't have to see Leonard, but once they know that this is the business, they know that business is of a certain standard, is of a certain value, and maybe it speaks to people like me. So all that has to be defined. And we've got to move away from doing to also spending some time thinking. Just do this, and we do this in the entrepreneurship program. Allocate time to think, because it's when thinking the ideas, and don't think inside the business, go step out and think outside the business. If you want to take a walk in the forest, go take a walk in the forest. Thinking is done outside your normal conversations. Yeah, we always say this in Centonomy. If you want to move, it can't be about the poverty support group. Go and talk to other people, expose yourself to other things. So in Centonomy and the entrepreneurship program, that's what we're about, raising the frequency and laying the foundation so that your business, your house, grows on these fundamentals. Thank you very much. I think that's all the time I have for today. Thank you very much.
Waceke, you should see all the comments that are coming through in the chat box down there, and people just saying, yeah, this is now Anne saying I'm delegating now and I'm seeing growth. This is Shem saying great insights as well. Thank you so much for all those who've been putting down those comments there. This is Sajis. I think hopefully Sajis Yogurt. I think that must be your business name. But they're saying, when I'm away from mine for a day, everything stops. Waceke, what was your first experience walking away from Centonomy?
First, it's going to be, to Sajis and everybody thinking about this, it's going to be scary, but it is going to reveal the gaps. Yeah. So Sajis, what I'll tell you is what stopped. So so the answer should be, it stopped, so I'll never do it again, because that's the fear most people go down to. But first of all, you will be scared, and that whole day you'll be looking at your phone, wondering if things have fallen apart. Some things you will be surprised, and especially if you have a team. And I'm going to reiterate what everybody else have said. Hire good people, yeah? Not people who have the right qualifications on their CV, but people who believe what you believe. People who will come in with the energy, the spirit, and the attitude that your business needs. So hire for attitude and recognize the attitude. But it's really about what fell apart, and then what do I need to do so that next time that I go away for a day, this doesn't fall apart. And many times you're sitting with a person right next to you who can do that and who will flourish if they're doing that. Yeah. So I think we're in just this ecosystem that the more you step out, the more you empower other people to grow, and the more you see what needs to be fixed in your business. I think the pandemic didn't so much destroy businesses as it revealed the gaps that were already in existence. It revealed those things. And a lot of people who spend time working on their business, they found some sort of way to rejig, to reinvent, to think differently about it. Yeah. So I cannot emphasize this enough. Please remember, I'm standing here. I have not raised any money. So the track you see with Centonomy today, there has been no single investor who has given me a cent. Yeah. But the power of working on your business and creating a business that runs in spite of you is a resource in itself. Yeah.
Timothy was relating to you and just saying, Waceke has nailed it. Cash flow is a critical for every business, and I think that's a key. There was a question here that that was coming up around, what do you think was the major differentiator? This is on Facebook. What's the major differentiator for Centonomy in this market? What do you think made you get into this space?
First of all, I got into this space because of my own personal experiences. That is what got me thinking about money. I found myself in a situation where I don't have money. I was used to earning a salary. Now I don't have a salary, and I'm realizing how badly it did. But I didn't keep the problem to myself. As I started talking to people, I realized it's a pandemic by itself, this thing of not being able to manage money, yeah? And that's when the opportunity dropped. Now, were we the first to do it? Absolutely not. There were other people doing it. But what Centonomy did differently, and I think I'll go back to what I say about understand the people you are talking to. The people I was talking to were people like me who it's their lifestyle issues that had caused the problems. So when we first structured Centonomy, even the way we were teaching and talking, we talked that language. So we didn't go and say, what are they teaching? Let me copy them. We created a new way of communicating about money. And it was picked up. It was picked up by the media. They started calling us for interviews, not because they had not had it before, but when I came on the radio and talked about a budget, I talked about it in a way that resonated with people. I think you guys are here. You're the best to say why you are at Centonomy today instead of all the thousands of webinars going on in the world that you could have actually attended. And it's that relatability and understanding that's what we have. So I think when you are convicted, and I'll go back to conviction. We call it passion, we call it value, etc. But let me just give you a word. What are you convicted about? I'm convicted that everybody was put on earth to create wealth. So that conviction has made me get out of bed in the morning when I don't want to get out of bed. It has made me, even when I have my moments, I'll still get out of bed. It has made me challenge banks when I couldn't get credit. It has made me tell people who said I'm not eligible for that program, to tell them that they have made a mistake. So conviction is what now I combined that whole experience with. But it's just understanding you're going to do it differently. We did it differently. We are the first in this market to do these courses the way we are doing these courses. We're the first in this market. People are training on financial literacy, but to make them holistic enough so that it leads to the transformation of the individual. We're the first entrepreneurship program where we'll see we are covering topics like fear, because we know fear is real. So it's not just about your business for us. It's about you as an individual, even as we cover the practical aspects of your business, because we are more interested in you transforming as an individual. The business, the money, all that will work out when you are transformed.
Waceke, that was a process of discovery, I believe. And I know we've had many conversations with you about you discovered the problem, the pandemic of financial illiteracy, and from that perspective. What does an entrepreneur, it's almost they need antenna to receive these messages. What would you advise somebody who's listening on how to identify that differentiator like you did, that process of discovery?
I would not be here. You know, I kept telling people that working on your business is not about doing, but it's about thinking, and it's about exposure. I would not be here, Centonomy would not be here if I did not seek the correct conversations and the correct environment. I am a product of somebody who has learned. I've taken business courses, I've taken life coaching courses, and that you always meet people. I can see people here exchanging contacts and stuff like that. It is that exposure. So it's going out, and I started with, this is the person I'd like to meet. They have created wealth. Let me have a conversation with them. Yeah, let me have a conversation with them. And those things just start planting seeds in your mind. So I cannot underestimate the value of conversation. This is not going to be your current social circle. Yeah, it is people outside. So have the conversations, read, and at the end of the day, what is that instinct telling you? Go with it, try it out, and experiment. We're so scared, Waithaka, of failure that we don't experiment. Not everything I've done in Centonomy has worked. As Waithaka will tell you, there are some classes that are still in the shelf because we experimented and it didn't turn out the way we wanted. It did work, yeah? But we've got to be okay to experiment, yeah? Fail fast, but fail forward. So experiment, call it, and then move on to the next thing. Don't be experimenting for 10 years, yeah? When you can see it's not working, change something around it, but experiment. I experimented. I really experimented. The first article I wrote, It was an experiment. Now, as you can see, I have a book. Making Sense became a book because of the series of articles and stories I was collecting. I didn't know it was going to become a book. So we've got to experiment. Step into the bus.
Waceke, let me tell you, listening to all the stories this morning, and it has become very clear. None of the people who spoke are still doing the business they thought they would start.
Absolutely.
Everyone has evolved that
Yeah.
business. Peter thought it was a certain type and it changed along the way.
Yeah.
Leonard has moved completely in the area of space, and
Yeah.
from your experience as well. Closing words before I tell people about the program, Waceke.
I think I'll just go back to the house analogy, yeah? And just say your role as an entrepreneur, some of you may be starting, some of you may be in the middle, some of you may be more advanced in years, and some of you may be just in this space where you're feeling stuck. I just want you to go back and understand wherever you are building a house. Okay, you are building a house. Just the same way, I think everybody can relate to having a home or wanting a home. So that's the house you are building. So when you first start out, it's a lot of what is inside the house. Has the furniture been put properly? And things like that. You're excited about the house, and you're first moving, you're setting up everything. But along the way, you realize, I love my house, but the house doesn't put bread and butter on the table. I have to go out and work. Yeah. The house doesn't come with its own supply of vegetables. Yeah, I have to go out and work. So you have to step out of the house to do that. So once you've understood this is how the house was built, step out of your house. So some of you guys are stuck because you can tell, I should not be inside the house, but I don't yet know what the next move is. But I'm just challenging you, step, and maybe come into our class is the first thing. Step outside the house. Start seeing what else could this house be, because there's a whole world out there. You're going to see estates built, yeah? So your job as an entrepreneur is not to live inside the house. Your job, yes, you own the house, but it is to build the house and then take what you have built, build another and another and another. Because the job of an entrepreneur is to not work inside the business, but to put resources together so that the business can work and the entrepreneur engages in the process of multiplication in whatever form. Multiplication could be a book. Multiplication could be global, growing globally. Multiplication could be products, but your job as an entrepreneur is multiplication. And I have proof of this because God said, go forth and multiply. He didn't tell us to live inside the house, yeah? Multiplication is what we must do, yeah? For your family, for yourself, for our community, for our country, and for the African stories that need to come out of each and every person in this room today.
Wow, wow, wow. In 2 hours, you can imagine you've learned so much. You can imagine what would happen when you step into the Centonomy Entrepreneurship Program, because you are exposed to entrepreneurs just like the ones that you've spoken here. The networking which is happening here is a key part of what we do in the program. You'll be able to meet other entrepreneurs, not just from the season that is starting this February, but also the one that is coming, that have been there before, and also the ones that are going to be there in the future. This is a network you want to be a part of, and I'm so excited that you have been there. Take that advantage of the registration. It's only 1,000 bob today. The details are there on the screen in case you're wondering. Just take a quick screenshot so that you'll be able to take advantage of that discount right now, and you'll be able to grow your business. This program is holistic. I'm just giving you a moment to take that screenshot. The program is holistic, and the idea is that you'll be able to build your business. If it's just at the idea stage, you'll be able to grow your business if you have been in business for a short period of time, and you'll be able to multiply that business if you've been in it for many years. We've had entrepreneurs come into the program with 10 years in that business, and then suddenly there's something in that class, whether it's the cash flow issues, whether it's the investment issue, whether it's the opportunity issue and understanding the talent issue, that begins to catapult them and to move forward. You are listening at the beginning of this session to all the testimonials for entrepreneurs who've been through this program, and there's lots more online. Please do check us out in the various social media platforms. This session It will be available on our Centonomy YouTube page, so please go and subscribe there so you don't miss out on the great content that's there. It'll also be available on the Centonomy Entrepreneur Facebook page, so you can be able to access this content even later. I do recognize that we weren't able to answer all the questions, but guess what? In 2 hours, we can't. We've tried to give you as much information as possible, but sign up for the class today and you'll be able to get those questions answered. As we said before, these are the modules, and you can imagine doing 3 hours on each one of these items, and you attend class only once a week. We offer the class on Wednesday and on Saturday. It is the same class that is offered on Wednesday as it is on Saturday. This is for flexibility, because we encourage you, yes, do commit to Wednesday or commit to Saturday, but guess what? Life happens. Your business may need you that Saturday, and if that's when you have decided, you come in on the Wednesday and you get the same content. If on Wednesday night you couldn't be able to make it, you come in on the Saturday. So there's flexibility for you to be able to do that. So make sure you take advantage of this program. It starts on the 16th of February. This is a great time for you to register and become part of the Centonomy story, and you will build that business to grow. I always make fun of this because I'm now in partnership with Waceke here at Centonomy, but it was because of my failure in business. At the time, I did not understand cash flows. I did not understand which was my money as the entrepreneur in that business. And I was very often just drawing cash out without an understanding of it. I was making money, and I told you we've dealt with many businesses that are creating money, cash flows, what we call revenue, but there's no understanding of the profitability and where that money should be categorized. And we deal with that in this program. So thank you so much to everybody. Thank you so much for giving us your time this Saturday. We want you to become part of our community here at Centonomy. Please do join us by registering for this class. I'll put the details one more time on the screen. Take advantage of that. Once you register, we will be able to reach out to you and give you all the details, a detailed breakdown of each one of those modules, how they're handled. We do have a course book, but that course book is not just a textbook. It is for you to go and apply it to your life. We have many case studies. We also have lots of opportunities for you to learn from one another and network. That's what the Centonomy Entrepreneur Program is all about. Thank you so much to Mr. Peter Njonjo of Twiga Foods. Thank you so much to Mr. Leonard Mudachi and the wonderful talk that he gave. Sorry, I can even put them up on the screen for you there. Leonard Mudachi at Branded Restaurant and Retail Limited, and obviously to our very own Waceke Nduati, who's a founder of Centonomy and an author. Please do pick up that book, Making Sense. From us here at Centonomy, have a great weekend. Go build a great business and join the Centonomy Entrepreneur. Bye-bye.